Atlantis could equal Americas. Could the Americas be the ancient world? Yes, if you believe in the Pangea theory, the idea that Earth's continents were once part of a single landmass called Pangea, which broke apart to form the continents we know today. This can explain why the oldest human-made structure in the Americas is older than the Egyptian pyramids. To find the oldest known human-made structures in the Americas, you don't need to hike into the wilderness or paddle down a raging river. All you need to do is visit Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At the north end of Louisiana State University's LSU campus sit two grassy mounds, rising in a gentle slope to a height of about 20 feet, 6 meters. The mounds are just two of more than 800 similar human-made mounds in Louisiana, built by indigenous Americans. Although researchers knew they were old, a new study has determined just how old these ancient structures are. The grassy surface hides layers of ancient clay, dirt, and ash. And researchers recently found that the oldest mound is 11,000 years old, making it the oldest human-made structure discovered in either North or South America. There's nothing known that is man-made and this old still in existence today in the Americas, except the mounds, study first author Brooks Elwood, emeritus professor of geology and at LSU, said in a university statement. The research was published in the June issue of Yale University's American Journal of Science. History of the mounds. For the study, the researchers took sediment cores from each of the mounds to determine their age. In these cores, the researchers found layers of clay and ash from burned reed and cane plants, as well as microscopic animal bone fragments. Because the flames from reed and cane are too hot to cook food with, the researchers think that the mounds were built up and used for religious or ceremonial purposes. The two mounds aren't the same age. Mound B, which lies to the south of Mound A, is the oldest of the two. Using radiocarbon dating, which measures how much of the radioactive isotope carbon-14 has decayed in organic matter, the researchers determined that Mound B is 11,000 years old, while Mound A is around 7,500 years old. The finding reveals that both mounds are older than the ancient Egyptian pyramids. The oldest pyramid, the Step Pyramid of Djoser, was constructed at Saqqara about 4,700 years ago. By studying the cores and the surrounding landscape, the researchers built a general timeline for the mound's construction. A large depression in the ground near LSU's Hill Memorial Library hinted that Mound B was probably constructed from material in that area starting around 11,000 years ago. Over thousands of years, ancient humans continued to build up the mound with clay and by burning plants and animals on the mound. Then, around 8,200 years ago, Mound B was abandoned, and researchers aren't sure why. But a rapidly changing climate could have had an impact. Starting around 8,200 years ago, temperatures in the northern hemisphere suddenly dropped around 35 degrees Fahrenheit, 19.4 degrees Celsius, for reasons unknown, and stayed that way for about 160 years, according to the statement. We don't know why they abandoned the mounds around 8,200 years ago, but we do know their environment changed suddenly and dramatically, which may have affected many aspects of their daily life, Elwood said. The team found no evidence of human activity at Mound B for the next 1,000 years. Then, around 7,500 years ago, ancient people started constructing Mound A about 30 feet, 9 meters, away, using mud from a floodplain where today's LSU Tiger Stadium now sits. The researchers also discovered a stellar characteristic of the mounds. They line up just 8.5 degrees east of north, which is where the giant red star Arcturus would have risen several thousand years ago, according to LSU astronomers. Around 6,000 years ago, both mounds were completed to align toward Arcturus. The university is now moving to help preserve these ancient monuments. Over the years, researchers have encouraged students and visitors to avoid walking or sitting on the mounds. Although their grassy slopes seem inviting for a picnic or study break, the structures were clearly important to the indigenous Americans who populated the area. LSU is planning to protect the mounds by building a path and a buffer zone of native plants so visitors can view the ancient structures without damaging them. Gopher wood. Gopher wood is a term that appears only once in the Bible, in Genesis 6 verse 14, where God instructs Noah to build the ark out of it. The word gopher is not used anywhere else in the Bible or the Hebrew language. Note: gopher wood, also known as the torreya tree, specifically Torreya taxifolia, can only be found in Florida, more precisely in a very limited area along the Apalachicola River in the northern part of the state, bordering southwestern Georgia, making it a highly endangered and rare species. Atlantis could equal Americas. The ancient cities of Egypt. The Americas. The Americas are surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean on the east coast and the Pacific Ocean on the west coast, with the Arctic Ocean bordering the northern parts of North America. Essentially, the Americas are surrounded by sea on all sides. Atlantis theory. Atlantis, ancient Greek, tau lambda alpha nu tau nu sigma omicron, Romanized, Atlantis Nisos lit. Island of Atlas, is a fictional island mentioned in Plato's works Timaeus and Critias as part of an allegory on the hubris of nations. In the story, Atlantis is described as a naval empire that ruled all western parts of the known world, making it the literary counterimage of the Achaemenid Empire. After an ill-fated attempt to conquer ancient Athens, Atlantis falls out of favor with the deities and submerges into the Atlantic Ocean. Since Plato describes Athens as resembling his ideal state in the Republic, the Atlantis story is meant to bear witness to the superiority of his concept of a state. Despite its minor importance in Plato's work, the Atlantis story has had a considerable impact on literature. The allegorical aspect of Atlantis was taken up in utopian works of several Renaissance writers, such as Francis Bacon's New Atlantis and Thomas More's Utopia. On the other hand, 19th-century amateur scholars misinterpreted Plato's narrative as historical tradition, most famously Ignatius L. Donnelly in his Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. Plato's vague indications of the time of the events, more than 9,000 years before his time, and the alleged location of Atlantis, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, gave rise to much pseudoscientific speculation. As a consequence, Atlantis has become a byword for any and all supposed advanced prehistoric lost civilizations and continues to inspire contemporary fiction, from comic books to films. While present-day philologists and classicists agree on the story's fictional nature, there is still debate on what served as its inspiration. Plato is known to have freely borrowed some of his allegories and metaphors from older traditions, as he did with the story of Gyges. This led a number of scholars to suggest possible inspiration of Atlantis from Egyptian records of the Thera eruption, the Sea People's invasion, or the Trojan War. Others have rejected this chain of tradition as implausible and insist that Plato created an entirely fictional account, drawing loose inspiration from contemporary events such as the failed Athenian invasion of Sicily in 415 to 413 BC or the destruction of Helike in 373 BC.